to the All Things Good podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the All Things Good podcast. I'm your coach and your host, Giovanna Cirillo. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast that helps you with mental health, self-development, and your overall wellness, helping you become the greatest version of yourself. Today, we're going to be talking about men's mental health. I'm so excited about this guest because I have been looking for someone to shine some light in this area when it comes to mental health. I have a lot of women, a lot of coaches who come on here to speak about their stories, about their work, and how they help women. But I've been looking for someone to help men. And I found him. I'm so happy to be interviewing Adam Wilson, who is a men's mental health and wellness coach. He's a speaker and host of the Inner King podcast. He helps men break generational patterns, heal the parts of themselves they've overlooked, and build a life that is strong from the inside out. Rooted in faith, honesty, and real transformation, Adam's mission is to create spaces where Black men can openly discuss mental health, confront what has held them back, and embrace a lifestyle of healing and purpose. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Adam. Welcome to today's episode. How are you? What's going on in your world?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. My world, it's a lot of work on the ground, trying to help men, find themselves, their inner king, and just to be a good beacon of light, a safe space. So that's my everyday, day to day, father, husband, and the whole nine.
I love that. I love that. As I was telling my listeners earlier, I've been like just wanting to have someone to come on here and speak to the men. A lot of my guests are women and they help women. And I'm just like, man, we need some diversity. I love diversity. I love including everyone, especially with the podcast with all things good. It would be hypocritical for me to have one like line of, just female or gender, um, when everyone is included in this, right? So I'm excited to talk to you about men's mental health.
Ooh, a topic that needs to be talked about.
Yes, 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 yes. And I love that. I mean, the past couple of years, it has increased in social media
Mhm.
and things like that. Men are talking more, but it's a little bit harder for men to process, right? What do you believe is the most misunderstood or rarely spoken about?
When it comes to men's mental health.
Yes.
Um, that we have feelings, that we have emotions, that we are human beings and not human doings. So it's if you think about society, it's always, oh, the man has to provide. Even in the dating world, like I do not envy the single men who are looking for their wives because it's, oh, you have to provide this, you have to provide that, and I'm seeing it, and I'm watching men break down. They're just like, man, I need a break, right?
Right. Yeah, and I mean I definitely agree. I think that we put a lot of pressure on men. I mean society in itself has placed a lot of pressure on men. And and I mean I see it on my day to day. I'm like, man, you guys are tough. Like I see posts and they're just bashing men. I'm like, are we still here? Are we still in the point of
Right.
time where we are like women against men? I thought like we were working together. I thought that was where we were. But
That's where we're
unfortunately,
supposed to
that is
be.
not the case.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're supposed to be. And a lot of men see it. And, you have the society pressures, but you also have those pressures you put on yourself because you want to be that guy or that strong man. Because you think about it, go back to childhood, like in the early 90s, 2000s, like manhood looked completely different. The bad
Hmm.
examples of like go out, party, get the money, get the girls. And
Right.
it's a lot of men are still trying to live in that. And it's like
Mm.
that is not the comprehensive way to go about it. You have
Right.
to take more time for yourself and focus on yourself and stop chasing these other things and heal.
And I love that. I love that. And as women, we should be encouraging that, especially
Oh,
like if a man is
absolutely.
saying, I need to focus on my mental health, then we need to take that serious because a lot
Hmm.
of men don't, I mean, like I said, now they are. But before, like you stated, it was just work. I mean, and they were just burning themselves out.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited to see where we are, where the men have involved and are getting in touch with their feelings and with their
Hmm.
emotions. I know that's scary. Tell me about that. Tell me how that looks for you and how you see that with the men that you work with.
Who for me it was hard for a while. I dealt with a lot of childhood trauma. At 16, I actually wanted to commit suicide. I dealt with a lot of like abandonment issues. I watched domestic violence in my family break up in like in the same night. So I've seen a lot, and it created a hard shell, right? I didn't want to let anybody in. I was getting let down by this person and that person, so I created this shell of I'm just gonna do it by myself. Like I don't need anybody to do it by myself.
Hmm.
And actually, when I met my wife, she was like, "Yeah, we have to do this a different way. Like, you're
Hmm.
not talking to your family, and that's not okay. We need to start there first, and let's grow." And like, she kind of came in and knocked down the walls and was like, "We have to let some light in. It's time to heal." And
Mm.
back in that time, we're actually going to be 10 years together this year, and well, 11 years this year. So and back then, therapy was taboo in our community. Like
Right.
it was still the beginning phases of getting open, but I saw her going to therapy and I was just like, maybe she's a little crazy. I don't, that was like the norm, right? The normal thoughts that you would have. But over time, it was like, okay, I have to do something. I'm bleeding on my wife. I'm bleeding on my kids. I have to work on myself to be better. And it took a while. It took a lot of like just listening to people speak and reading books and eventually just took track. And then once the momentum started, I kept going. But it was hard to trust people. It was hard to talk. I didn't even really know how to communicate my emotions. Right.
Right.
And that's the same for a lot of guys. We don't know. We weren't taught. It was always suck it up, man up, keep going. Like don't ever see anybody don't let anybody see you cry. It's all of these things. So we're bottling all up, trying to be that tough guy, and a lot of men are breaking down, thinking money's going to solve the problem. But if you think about it, that's why a lot of millionaires are still killing themselves. They're not
Mm.
happy. They have all the money, right? But they're not happy. And so it's this cycle, and then you're passing it down and passing it down. I know I'm seeing it now that a lot of men are willing to heal. A lot of men want to. We're kind of like that bridge, like, okay, we have to do it, especially in our community. I preach, I say, man, we're the start, right? We're the top, we're the leaders. So everything trickles with us. When we get better, the women get better, the kids get better, and we it goes and goes and goes.
I agree. I agree. And you had mentioned in your submission that many men learn how to survive before they learn to feel. Can you talk about that a bit more?
Yeah, learning to survive is just trying to bottle everything up. That's that bottling everything up, trying to put on the mask of perfection, the like I'm the tough guy, I'm the strong guy. It's surviving in the world when you should be thriving. You're working hard, you're breaking yourself down. You don't know how to talk about your emotions. You're not talking to anybody. You don't really trust anybody. It's just you're just going with the motions and emotions. And when you look back at like the older generation of men and the men and their wives, I always say the men look broken. They're always on canes, like can barely walk because they've worked
Mm.
so hard their entire lives. While the woman is vibrant, she was able to stay home and be with the kids, or she worked a job, but she didn't have to work as hard physically as he did. And it's that survival mode. You're trying to paycheck to paycheck. You're working. You're not really working on yourself or taking time for yourself. It's everything is a sacrifice off of you, but what is pouring into you.
Right, right. Taking time for self-care. Oh my God. I had an
Yeah.
episode with a woman by the name of Tiffany, and she spoke on self-care when she said this is for men too. Like, it's not just for
Oh yeah,
women. Single
absolutely.
men, or even if you're married, like take some time out, take a
Yeah.
nice bath or a shower, get some
Mhm.
nice glassware, put on some music
Mhm.
when you're cooking or whatever it is that you do. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
How
Yep.
do you
I
feel about
recently
that?
actually just I love it. I promote self-care. Like please take care of yourself. I'm the one who will leave and go cold plunge and get in the sauna workout every day. Um actually just recently this past weekend I left last Wednesday and came back home on a Sunday and I went in the woods for the entire time.
Wow.
And I just spent time in the nature because that's my happy place. Nature is my happy place. I'll say any day that you can learn a lot from nature, from the animals, from the plants, everything. And so I sat there for that many days, bare minimum. Didn't take much with me. Didn't wasn't on my phone often. I posted my podcast episodes. That was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I took the nature walk. I made a steak on the grill. Like I did whatever I wanted to do with no
Right.
pressure, nobody calling for me. And like self-care, it has to be a part of your routine, and you have to be unapologetic about it too.
I love that. And it's important that you have the right support. Because
Oh yeah.
anybody else, another woman would have been like, "Oh, why are you're cheating? All these reasons why you
You
shouldn't
gonna
go
leave
and
me?
take your mental health day." But since
Yeah.
she was the one who initiated self-care, right? And saying we need to
Hmm.
start doing things differently, you know, I feel like that's a beautiful point and a beautiful relationship for you guys to allow that space for
Oh
each
yeah.
other.
Yeah, you have to have that communication because I have to be able to come and say, "Hey, I feel off. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
need time." And after a couple of days, I came back and got her. I was like, "See, I just need like three
Right.
days, and now come on, like let's finish out the last 2 days with me. We're gonna do nothing, get away from the kids, and just spend time together." Because I think we often think of self-care as just like self, but in me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking holistically. I'm gonna take care of myself, but I'm also gonna take care of her too because that's my partner. Right.
Right.
If I'm good and she's in a bad mood, I want to end up in a bad mood. And I don't want to be in a bad mood, right? And so I rather like, okay, I'll take 5 days, but three on my own, and the last two, you get a break too. Come on. So it's the
Right.
flexibility in how you do it, and spending time with your wife is also pouring into your own cup.
Right. Now, how hard, like, okay, so how do you coach men or maybe even your or in your own life? Like you stated, a lot of men find it hard to speak up and be honest about their emotions. And that can be almost like, I'm not gonna say toxic, but very unhealthy for a man and and their masculinity to actually say, "Hey,
Mhm.
I'm not right." Or I'm not feeling
Right.
right. How long did it take for you to actually get to that point in your life or in your relationship to start holding taking yourself accountable, like holding yourself accountable, like, listen, I need to get my mind right so that we all can be right. Can you help our listeners first and foremost how to, guide them into that phase?
Okay. So it started with me maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, actually. So
Okay.
it hasn't been that long. So you can see there's a big progression from when I started to now. And I identified it because well, first I was working at a job where I was driving 45 minutes to work and 45 minutes back, sitting there all day. I wasn't happy. And I didn't see it at the time, but it was bleeding on my family. Right. I had my kids were way younger, and I was bleeding on them. And then it came to an incident happened where I overreacted with my son, and I went back and I reflected and I was like, man, something really is not right. Like, and at that point, I just started to unbag. I didn't talk to anybody at that moment because I wasn't comfortable in that space yet. But it all starts internal, right? You have to do a self-evaluation and get comfortable with yourself and honest with yourself before you can go out to anybody else for help to begin with. So I did a lot of self-reflecting, trying to figure out, okay, what's wrong? I looked at some of my habits and I realized this isn't my habit. I've learned this from watching my parents. This is not something I want to
Mm,
keep. I know I did a show recently and I said the analogy of it's like a bag and somebody's dumping a bunch of puzzles in your bag and you're trying to figure out what pieces are yours and what pieces isn't yours. And so you're shuffling through all these, trying to build your puzzle, and it takes that intentionality for the internal work, right? And then
yes.
you can start inviting people in, start seeking coaches, start seeking community, because that was the big thing for me. I was very isolated. I didn't, like I said earlier, I didn't trust anybody. I didn't want to be around people. I'm always the guy who just sits on the wine and observes the room. And so I had to push myself and get uncomfortable because it's not going to be easy. It's never an easy journey. But I just started getting into communities and like being a fly on the wall, seeing transformation, seeing what's possible, right? Going
Mm,
to like conferences, getting in networking spaces. And it took for me to just meet people and talk. And then get in those communities, talking to people, and you learn so much. You're like, oh man, you're going through this exact same thing I went through before. Like, you start to find people who are can you relate to. Okay, how did you
right.
get out of this? Help me. And you help each other. That's what we're here for, right? We're not here to just be in isolation. It's not good for man to be alone. So it's finding your people to help you build you up.
I love that. I love that. So your step was to start, first of all, you were aware, you became self-aware. Okay, something is not right. I shouldn't have responded like that. And then you started to look outside and see what are other men doing? Who can I connect with? What community can I connect with to begin to improve my own life and not just my own life, my family's life? I love that. I love that. I love that you took
Hmm.
accountability and that you found it in your being to connect with people you did not know. Because let's
Yeah.
be honest, it's hard to do that.
It is, but it's also rewarding. I've learned you meet some of the greatest people. Like you be like, oh, really? Like you're really cool. Because I think when we think about people think about past interactions, like people we grew up with, high school, the trauma that may have come from that, or the people who done you wrong. But when you go out and meet people, these people have no idea what has happened to you. They're
Right.
looking at you face value now, and they're
Mm,
starting from that point on. So I've met people who check on me way more than the people I live around the corner from that I know, right? And they're
right.
random texts like, "Hey, how are you doing? Do you need help with anything? Like, what's wrong?" And it's or are you good? And it's like those little subtle moments kind of spark a hope. It's like, okay, I can find my
Right.
people. I can find my people, and that's another reason why I created my community because I wanted people to find me too. Right. I wanted to
Mm,
be, I had to be in position, just like I'm looking for somebody else, I have to be in position. But it started with me acknowledging it and then looking for wisdom. So I started reading books too, podcasts, and all these different avenues, just trying to learn more.
I love that. I love that. I like the fact that you acted on the awareness that came about because a lot of people we can overlook that. And say, oh, I messed up.
Hmm.
I'll try again tomorrow. And not even try to dig deeper into the core of why we are responding in this way. So thank you for that. Thank you for being a voice for men and helping them to take accountability and to look within and help them develop
Hmm.
themselves and go through the healing process and things like that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And it's
Now,
therapy too.
I'm sorry.
Therapy is one, I said therapy as well. Therapy is one of those things that we try to avoid, but that start there. You start at the books and stuff and then go into therapy.
Right. Now, men are often taught to perform, provide, and push through pain, like you mentioned earlier. How does that pressure quietly impact mental health over time?
So, as a man, if you believe that your entire being is for you just to provide, just to bring in the money, you're never going to be fulfilled. So
Mm,
your mind, you're always going to feel like something's wrong. The weight of that is going to crush you because what happens if you're not bringing in the money that you're used to bringing in? What if you have those down seasons, the Job season? There was a time where I thought that, and I was trying to figure out my life, and guy was like, he was like, take everything away. I was like,
mm,
everything? Like everything, quit your job, everything. And I was obedient. I followed it. And for months, I did not have a job for like 18 months,
mm,
trying to figure out. And in that moment, I learned, I said, man, I cannot provide like I've been providing, but my family still loves me. They still want to
mm,
spend time with me. They still want to see me every day. My kids are like excited to spend time and watch a movie with me. And I'm just like, but in the back of my head, I'm like, I could be doing so much more to bring in more money. But in the other side, it's like the devil and the angel. And the angel was just like, but you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do, which is pouring into yourself and realizing that you're more than just a money bag, a bank. And I think a lot of society and a lot of, I can say all women, like, but some women's standards is men are bank accounts. And so you have single men who are seeing that and they're thinking like, okay, this is the standard. But the standard is really just to be a person. You're going to find somebody who's going to see you for you. And they're going to love you for who you are. They're going to see you grow. In your down seasons, they have your back. In your up seasons, they're applauding. It's you have to have the discernment to say, okay, I'm more than just my bank account. Who am I? And that's where a lot of the soul searching comes in. And so when I'm
mm.
talking with my guys that I'm working with, it's and let's look past finances right now. Let's dig deeper down, and then we can come back to that later.
Right. That's a tough one because many men, no, I'm just kidding. They find their identity in their job. Like if there
Mm,
is not, if they don't provide, then they feel worthless.
yeah.
And I feel like that is a very hard, not impossible, but very hard tie to break and like
Hmm.
break that connection from men and making their means of provision their identity. Can you speak a bit more
Right.
on that? How do you begin to help men transition out of that mindset?
Well, first we have to reframe what providing is. So
Mm,
when you say providing, 99% of people's brain go to finances.
right.
But as a person, I can provide my wife emotional support. I can provide my kids with my presence. I can provide, any kind of support. It doesn't have to be financial. And so when we're looking at providing and we're always thinking money, then you're missing the other parts of it. You're missing the other things that you as all humans need. We need the emotional connections. We need mental support. We need physical support, financial support, just leadership. And as a man, it's like, especially if you have a family, above the finances, like your leadership, because you have to lead this family. Finances is
Right.
just a part of it, but you have to provide everything for them. You're responsible for your kids, you're responsible for your wife and how they feel, and all these things. I had to learn that. My wife was like the biggest crybaby when we got together. But me, I grew up in a household where it was like we didn't even say I love you. It was
Okay.
that bad. Like, none of us knew how to express emotions. So, of course, me and my brothers weren't taught, right? So I get with her and she's always crying. I'm just looking at her like, what are you crying for? Like, are you okay? I'm really thinking she's psychotic a little bit. But after a while, I was like, okay, no, it's the fact that it took we were on a trip in New Orleans and my brother was talking to somebody. And he said, man, we've never even said I love you or all these emotional things. And when he said it, it hit me. I was like, wow, we haven't. And I was like, that's
Hmm.
the problem. But that awareness, I was able to say, okay, so my kids and stuff were saying, I love you. And I'm unable to say it because I wasn't taught how to say it, but I have to teach myself how to do it. Right. And so it's like reframing what provision is and providing the other things as well.
I love that. I love that. Taking that and dissecting that word provision and looking
Mhm.
at all the different categories that provision, like that falls under provision. That's a
Right.
great start for men. I love that. I love that you share that. And I know that's going to be very helpful to the men that are listening to say, okay, what is my definition of provision and what am I missing? What
Right.
am I not seeing? So that was really, really good. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Now, you mentioned emotional awareness.
Mhm.
Um, I'm all about awareness. I believe that that is something that we are not really taught, especially when it
Mhm.
comes to emotional intelligence. What does that actually look like in practice for men who have never been given the permission to feel?
One, it looks like letting go. Of what is holding you down, getting rooted in some kind of like spirituality, right? And also, I like to do the practice of writing my younger kid as a letter. Like I'll tell men
Mm,
to do it all the time. Like I've had guys who would come to me with issues, and I would sit back and listen. And I'll say, "Hey, write yourself a letter as a kid, well, to your younger kid, and apologize for what they went through. Say that I love you. Give yourself the love first." And allow yourself to feel like you're going to cry, you're going to sniffle, but it's okay to let it go. And I actually read a study that said in your tears, there's actually a stress hormone. So when you're crying, you're relieving stress.
hmm
And it's when you start to relieve the stress and peel off the layers like an onion, it gets easier. But write that letter to yourself to say, okay, I know we went through this, and I thank you for getting me to this point, but we have to let go. Whatever you're holding on to, let it go. I love you. I got you. And let's move
Right.
forward.
Right. I love that. Speaking to the inner child. Now, how do they actually react to that when, when you first bring that up? Are they willing or is there some hesitation?
There's some that's kind of like, what? Like, do what? And I like really just sit with yourself for like 20, 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be an essay. It doesn't have to be, it could be 3 words. At least you started somewhere, right?
Right.
But 99.9% of the time, if they actually do it, they come back and there's like, man, I realized why X, Y, and Z happened, or why I'm reacting like this because this happened back, when I was 12. So it gives you that moment of self-reflection to really pull down your guard and say, okay, what happened to me?
Mm, hmm Wow. I mean, that can be very triggering.
How can it
I
be?
mean, it's something that I definitely practice myself, that I have practiced in the past when I started to learn about inner child healing and,
Hmm.
teen healing. But it's so helpful to begin to point out those areas that were affecting us as a child, whether it was abandonment or regret, or I'm not abandonment. I mean, yeah, abandonment,
Abandonment's a big
or
one.
shame, or just living in poverty. There's all these things that
Hmm.
begin to affect us. And I love that you are helping them point those areas out when it comes to their inner healing. Now, Healing looks different for everyone, right? What does
Absolutely.
choosing healing look like when you've spent most of your life avoiding vulnerability? Let's be real because we know that is not cute.
It's not. Healing is ugly, but at the same time, it's beautiful.
It is.
Well, let me say, in human eyes, in our reality world, it's ugly, but it's really beautiful because it's showing your transformation, right? And it can start with just picking up a book. One book I always recommend is The Untethered Soul because it really speaks to how in your inner being, like you're hiding and you need to go back and get your kid, your inner kid. And you just have to start there. You have to start somewhere, and you can't be afraid because healing is ugly, but it's also beautiful, right?
Right,
And so when you're going through it, you're going to uncover things about your past that you didn't even remember or just knew happened. Your body remembers it, but you may not remember it because your mind
right,
has it tucked away somewhere. And that was you living in that flight or fight mode. And
right.
so going through everything and trying to figure out because you're going to bring up things about your mom, your dad. We don't talk about mother wounds a lot. And everybody talks about, oh, the father isn't around. But let's talk about the mother wounds, right? We have the absent father, we have the abusive father, but there's also abusive mothers. There's absent mothers. There's mothers who single mothers who are, oh, this is my man, not my child. That affects men, right? And with boys is being able to get everything that they're asking for in the world, but when it comes to reality and like reality's like, no, that's a shocker for people. You know, the fear of rejection, the fear of people seeing them, and that's where you
Mm.
get the perfectionism. But you have to break down the walls and take off the mask to keep going.
Yes, 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 yes. Breaking down that, taking off the mask, I think is the hardest thing to do, especially when you're not used to vulnerability and being so open, especially with people that you don't know.
Right.
Um, so I love that. I love that you are helping men do that. Now, how does unprocessed emotional pain show up in men's relationships or family or even within themselves? Like, what are some things that can help our listeners to look in within their daily lives to see, okay, maybe there's some unprocessed emotions there.
First, look at how you're reacting to things when they don't go your way, right? Are you getting angry? Because anger is typically the first big emotion, right? And you also just be more aware of yourself. Like when things happen, pay attention to your body, seeing what's triggering you. It was bad to the point that when my mom would come around, I would get triggered. But then I realized it and I was just like, okay, this is not okay. Like, and I
Right.
had to figure it out. Or even look at how much time you're spending with yourself, right? Look at if you're having distance with your significant other, because there shouldn't be distance between you. If you're distant and she's trying to come to you, you have some kind of issue. It's like I can't get close to you, and I dealt with that for a while. It was like I can't really get close to you, but it takes, like I said, it takes getting in the room talking to people. It takes just taking intentional time for yourself. Silence. The world is so loud, so loud. All right. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to work every day and then you're fighting traffic to get home, and then you go in the house without even decompressing, and then you're like in the house just going through the motions, you're getting angry, you're fussing, those are definitely signs that something's wrong.
Okay. Okay, so anger, which is I believe is most common for especially for men. Not that
Yeah.
women don't get angry, but I feel like because they hold on to things a lot longer than women, that can be
Mhm.
a number one thing. What are some other things that they can begin to look at that may indicate that there's some unprocessed emotions?
Let's look up how you show up at work, right? How active you are in your kid's life, how active you are in the community, just how active you are and how present you are. Are you spending most of your time video gaming, smoking weed, drinking, partying all the time, or are you actually spending time pouring into yourself?
Hmm.
Because we all have the same 24 hours, right? So
Right.
there's time isn't an excuse. I actually had a conversation with a friend before, and she told me, she said, "Man, for a really long time, I didn't think I had time to do whatever I forgot what she wanted to do." And she said, "I took a self-inventory one day and realized that I spend 45 minutes in the Starbucks line every morning." And she said, "That's my time right there." And I'm
Eee.
like, yeah.
You need to
Like, you
get
know
there
how
a
much
bit
you can get done.
earlier.
Right. I was like, you know how much more time you would have if you take out the little things that aren't filling you up and they're taking from you? Are you buying random things and always having to go to the store because you just want to shop all the time? Or are you
Mm,
buying things that are building you up? So look at
I
your
like that.
habits and what you're doing. Are you doing things that are taking from you or building you?
I like that. And what would you say the role of pride? A lot of men are very prideful. And this is not to
Yes.
come against any male, but I feel like pride is a major factor. Um,
No,
how
it's the
does
truth.
pride begin to hinder, well, first of all, what do you think? What do you believe pride comes from? Like, what's trauma? Or what is it that they're holding on to that pride begins to show up in men? I mean, it happens in women as well, but we're speaking about men right now. So,
Right. But no, it's the truth, right? Pride is a thing that's held a lot of men down. And it comes from abandonment issues. They didn't get love somewhere, so or they're just trying to prove themselves because they didn't get approval as a kid, right? You didn't
hmm
get the congratulations, I'm proud of you. And so pride can just creep, right? When you're getting mistreated because you was like, I'm better than this, I'm better than all of you guys. It can really come from there. But when you're carrying pride, you can't grow because
mm,
you're not going to be willing to listen to anybody because you feel like you have all the answers. And so when you're looking at your inner self and you're going to get help, nobody's going to be able to help you. Right? It's going to be
right,
like talking to a brick wall because in the back of your mind it's, oh, I got it all figured out, I don't need you, you're probably going to leave me later anyway, so I'm the man, I got it. And just that tough macho man, that toxic masculinity that we always hear about, that's where that pride shows up. Like I have to prove myself. I have to be that guy. I have to be the one with the women. I have to be the one with the money. I have to do all these things just to show that who I am externally and not internally.
right, right. I think that's a big thing for a lot of men. Especially, I mean, for people just in general, especially depending on what you
Yep.
grew up with and who you were surrounded by. But pride can be a very big thing when it comes to healing and just, like you said, blocking that healing from happening,
Mhm.
blocking from allowing love. I mean, love in
Yeah,
itself is a healing tool, coming from
it
other people
is.
outside of you. And you opening yourself up to a community that you don't know was your humility saying, listen, I am open to receive love and
Mhm.
healing in the process. And so I think that a
You
lot of
did.
men should practice some more humility. And again, I'm a woman and I'm doing this because I want to help men. It's not to come against men, right? I don't want to sound like I'm coming against men,
Which is
but I feel
appreciated.
like, I'm sorry.
I said, which is appreciated because
Right.
we need the support of our women, right? If you really study any great man, fictional, nonfiction, there's always a woman by his side, right?
Right.
And so we need the support. So it's spaces like this I'm happy to come into because I always say we should dabble in each other's spaces a little bit because it helps women to understand men and men to understand women. And instead of having the war, let's talk. Let's just
hmm
and it's not always having to go in and say something. Sometimes you can just go in a room just to get knowledge.
Right. Right. And I mean, let's talk about that. Let's talk about women a bit more. Like, how can we, and it doesn't have to be relationships. It could be my brother. It could be my friend. It could be my boss. It could be whoever. How do you see women playing, what role do women play in a male's healing?
So I would say just being support with love, right? Not the I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. I might use it against you later. It's really just that support with love, like just showing love, kindness. When we mess up, not throwing it in the faces. It's like, okay, let's figure this out. I'll help you. Just being that helpmate, right? I think where a lot of women go wrong is it's you tell them something and then they throw it back in your face in an argument. And so
hmm
it's still a common thing, and it hurts. It hurts guys. It hurts. I'm gonna say ego, but it hurts. Like the inner kid, it really still hurts because it's like, dang, I didn't get heard in my household, and now I'm not getting heard here.
Right.
And I always say, women and kids will never understand what it really means to be a man, right? That's
hmm
why I say women can't raise a man. And so when just being there, just listening, and just giving love, that's the best way you can help men or
Right.
even sending spaces. If you have a man in your life and you find some kind of community, some kind of event or something, send it to them. They may not go, but they have knowledge and they're starting to see it. And eventually they're going to go.
Right. In my experience, I see that our words Words. I mean, I know they say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. No, they hurt,
They do
especially from
hurt.
coming from someone who you are trusting and confiding in. So, as women, I believe we should learn to watch our words. And I know it's hard because we're so like, spicy and catty and we got
Right.
something to say, right? But learning to slow down, learning to be more gentle and to just be more understanding, especially to the situation of men, because there's a lot of pressure that they face when it comes to work
Hmm.
and being the leader, as you stated, and being the provider or just being a man in point in general, right? It's
Absolutely.
tough. So for us women to have a greater understanding, and I know it's hard for us women too, because I could already hear it. Oh, we got it hard too, right?
We all have it hard, right? And it's see that's another thing. Have compassion, right?
Mm,
But first you have to have it for yourself. You have to have compassion and empathy for yourself. And I think that's one of the best things you can do as a woman for a man. Speak life into him. Study
hmm.
him. Like if you're really serious about the guy you're with, study him. Figure out what happened to him. Ask questions. And when he trusts you with the information, don't take that lightly.
Right,
Because if I'm talking to you, that means I really trust you. And if you mess that up, it's gonna break me.
right, right. Ah, so good. Okay, so what gives you hope when it comes to the future of men's mental health?
The increasing number of men wanting to find help. If you think about like what 5, 10 years ago, mental health wasn't a big thing. It was up and coming, but it wasn't big. And it took COVID to hit and everybody to start losing their mind for people to say, okay, mental health is really important, right? And so now we're getting more, and not even just with black men, but just everybody. Now everybody's getting more health conscious.
Right.
But specifically with men, it's just a joy of seeing so many men want help. Like, oh, I'm battling lust, or oh, I'm battling porn addiction or marijuana addiction, and it's that I need help. Like, I know I need to let this go. I need help, and so just the vulnerability that men are starting to have, it gives me hope. And just being in rooms and talking to people, I'm seeing it. And I'm loving it. You see it in the healing. I'm seeing men like break down and crying because it's like they're releasing so much and they're surrounded by brothers. They're surrounded by
Yes.
men, and we're all just like, hey, like you have to get back up and just keep going. But it's okay to feel.
Right. Oh, I love it. I'm thinking about a video that I seen on Instagram, and it was a group of young men with older men, and they were talking about they were asking the kids what made them upset or what made them hurt.
Mhm.
And just seeing the vulnerability, because at first it was hard. It was hard for the kid to speak up. And he was like, and all the men surrounded him and they were like, you're in a safe space, like no judgment. And the way that he just released and spoke on what he felt, I think was
Mhm.
so powerful. It was so, so powerful. And so I just love it. I love it because it just means that as a human species, we are evolving, right? We're
Right,
doing
right.
better. We're looking to create a better world and
Mhm.
looking for the things that are good in our lives. And
Mhm.
so it's so good. I love it.
Yeah. So even
So,
with your point, because you brought up did that video and it was a kid, we have to look at the kids too. We kind of don't go back, but there's teen boys who need assistance. Like I said it earlier, at 16, I actually wanted to commit suicide. And that was because I felt abandoned in my household. I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel loved. And I was
right.
just like, okay, if nobody's accepting me here, then I must not be good enough for the world. But it took for other guys who aren't in my household to step up and like teach and be around.
Hmm.
And to this day, well, they probably know now, but because I've been talking about it, but they didn't know what I was going through. And it's
Right.
just those simple moments, even as men, we may be going through stuff, but there's a younger generation. Like we just have to step up for them and actually be there for them. And we can prevent kids going to join gangs. We can prevent suicides if we just talk more.
Hmm. Talk and listen. And that's what we're
Mhm.
doing as we are healing and taking accountability for our emotions. We are breaking generational curses. Like we are healing not just ourselves, but those after us. And even like I'm like, I think big, right? So we're even healing the land. Like we're healing things because we're taking the initiative
Hmm.
to become the light, the agent of healing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing and it's beautiful to see. And we might not see it in our lifetime, right?
But we're
But
seeing the progress.
we're seeing it because if you're here with me on this podcast talking about it, then there's progress.
Exactly. See, because before this wasn't a thing before, right?
Right.
And we often look for the end. We want to see the big like right,
Mm,
but it's the journey is where
yes.
most of the beauty is. Like creating it, creating your story, creating your life. Like that is where the real beauty is. The end part is just you die and go about your, but it's the journey of becoming who you were before the mess happened.
Right. I love that. Okay, so this has been a very interesting and amazing topic, but we're going to transition into a bit more something lighthearted. It's called Soul
Okay.
Snacks, and then it's going to be piece of the puzzle. Okay.
Okay.
So you have to think of whatever I'm going to ask a question, and the first thing that
Okay.
comes to your mind is what you're going to answer. Okay.
Okay.
All right. It's called Soul Snacks. So, what is your comfort food when you are dealing with a stressful day?
Ooh, that one's blank. I just like to eat.
Oh, come on. It got to be something like the first thing that came.
Wings.
I was about to say, because chicken came to my mind. I don't know what came to
Wings for
you.
sure. I'm like, wings or tacos. I'm like, yeah, one of those two.
Okay, I love chicken. I love chicken. I actually have some chicken waiting for me after this podcast episode. So,
Me too.
what song do you listen to calm and soothe your mind?
I actually like to listen to meditation music
Okay.
because
Any particular artist?
no, it's like jazz, random like playlists. Because the music, like the hard music, the trap music, all that with the words, it doesn't calm me down. But I can turn on like jazz or something, and I'm instantly calm.
Okay. Okay. All right. You said jazz. I love me some jazz. I
Jazz
was
is
actually
dope.
listening
I
to that
love it.
earlier. When I'm at work, I play that because my boss tends to stress me out. And so
Mm.
I'm just like, you know what? Let's just play that smooth jazz, act like I'm by the water. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Got to visualize it. Got to see it. Trick my mind and say I'm on vacation right now.
Right, right, right. Now, what scent? Is there a particular scent that tends to calm your mind when you are having a stressful day?
Eucalyptus for sure.
Mm,
That is one of
okay.
my favorite scents.
I love that. I love that. Awesome. Okay, so I truly believe that everyone has a piece of the puzzle. I feel like whatever background you may have, whatever religion, whatever belief system, we all have something, right, to
Mhm.
bring to the table to help humanity. Um, who do you believe was a piece of the puzzle besides your wife? Because you already gave her props.
Give her flowers every time.
Yes, and I love that. Shout out to your wife. Who else do you believe was a piece of the puzzle in your life? And then
Mhm.
who do you believe you were a piece of the puzzle for?
I would say my football coaches were the
Okay.
start because well, my head coach was actually a Super Bowl champion. He actually just passed away a couple of years ago, but he taught us like man, like being a man, what it meant to be a man, and just being human. Uh, we were a football team, but he taught like brotherhood, like life skills, and that kind of gave me hope. And like I said, at 16, I wanted to commit suicide, but that kept me coming back because I'm like, oh, I'm enjoying it over here, right? And you can see it
Right.
in the locker room with the fellas and just different men that I've met throughout my journey. It's my mentors, E.T., the hip hop preacher,
Okay.
Jeremy Anderson, CJ Queenie, like listening to those guys and getting in the room with them, shaking their hands, talking to them, like those different pieces of puzzles I've listened to my entire life. Les Brown, all make up who I am today and who I'm impacting, mostly my son. I look at
Mm,
him now, he's 8, he's getting ready to turn 9 actually. And I was like, man, at 7, 8 years old, like my parents were getting divorced. Like it was war in my family. And I'm like, you're all at peace. Like you get to, go home and come to school to a hot meal and getting to sleep in a nice bed. Like, you
Like, must be
know,
nice. Must be
it
nice.
must be nice. But I love it for him though, because it's like you don't have to go through these things. And then he
Right.
asks us all the time, like, what have we been through? And we'll say it. And then like when we say it's like, oh my God, really? I'm like, yeah. And just him, any friends that he brings around, I typically try to get into that mentor role. And then of course the guys that I work with, I'm like, hey, I can be in that mentor coach role and it turns on and off quickly. It might be a
Right.
random person that I meet, or it might be somebody I'm actually working with.
Okay. I love that. I love that. This has been so good. I have one last question for you, and then we want to know how can we or how can the men connect with you further. But before we get into that, what if a man is listening right now and feels
Mhm.
seen but unsure where to start? What would you want him to hear?
You say you feel seen?
He feels seen, but he's still
Okay.
unsure. Like he's hearing
Well,
this, he's like, yes, this is me, but I don't know what to
mhm.
do.
First, I want to start by saying that society may not see you, but I see you, and you have to see yourself. You have
Mm,
to really dig deep and be okay with knowing that you are a mess and not try to do the perfectionism. It's going to kill you every time. You're not going to get anywhere. Pick up a book, right? Like I said the book earlier, The Untethered Soul. Start there, read it, learn more about you, more about what you like. Try new hobbies. Like I said, I went to the woods for 5 days, and and I know in our community, it's always, that's their stuff. We don't do that. So it's like
right,
you have to be open-minded about the hobbies that you're trying. Just try. You never know. You might like it, right?
right.
And get in the community, talking to people, just having conversation, networking. Those are the ways that you can really get going and get grinding. Once the momentum starts, do not stop. There's going to be days where you feel like, what's the point? There's going to be days where you want to break down, but it's in those moments where you should have brothers that you can reach out to and say, hey, I need help. Like, pray for them, whatever you have to do. You never know who's in the room until you walk in the room. So if you're going to stay in your house, you're never going to get anywhere. You have to get out. You have to get into the world. You have to get into yourself and be who you truly are.
I love that. He has given you a list of things to do. Try one. Try one. Try.
Just one.
Get out there
Start
and try
therapy.
it. Hmm?
Start at therapy. Start at a book. Start at a hobby.
Right,
Just do something.
right. Well, if you guys want to learn more about Adam and listen and maybe even take a coaching session, how can we do that?
Come on.
Adam, tell us about it. Tell us about it.
Well, you can go to riseinnerking.com. You can also go reach me at Instagram and TikTok as well as threads at the Adam Wilson _, or you can go to my YouTube page for my podcast, The Inner King Initiative.
Awesome, awesome. There you have it. If you are a man and you are listening, and you feel like this was helpful and this was just like a surface based podcast,
Mhm.
I'm sure that he goes more in depth into topics, into emotional health, into mental health.
Mhm.
Follow the Inner King podcast on YouTube and where else?
YouTube, wherever you get the audio podcast. And
Okay.
you can also DM me on Instagram, any social media, really, you find me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you so much for blessing my listeners with your wisdom, with your insights. It has truly been an honor, and I learned myself how to be there for the men in my life. So, thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome. Ladies, be
Uh,
there for yourself and you can be there for them.
right, right. All right. Well, until next time, I will talk to you soon.